Hello, good morning. My name is Anita, like you said, and today I have the job of delivering some really bad news, and hopefully at the end of the day we can turn it into some good news. And it's primarily bad news because I'm going to be speaking about two things that media people hate to hear, and that is money and systems. I can hear the murmurs. I mean, we want to do this work, but we don't want to talk about money, and we don't want to talk about systems. So this is what we're going to do today. I'm trying to figure out the best way to start this because I have been warned that this is not a topic that a lot of people like to engage with. But I do want to say that the building on the left, that's where we are right now. I think we can all acknowledge that fact. Layoffs are happening. People are not sure where they're supposed to get funding for their projects. People work in organizations where they're not sure what's supposed to happen next. There's a lot of uncertainty around. And literally, when you are trying to rebuild a place, the first place to start is a foundation. And so we're going to be talking about how we rebuild the foundation of media, starting one organization at a time. And one thing that I want us to put at the back of our minds is that operations is really the foundation of every media organization. Now, you're seeing operations and you're like, this is not a tech conference. Why is someone talking about operations? We come here to talk about stories. But media organizations are organizations. And that's something that we have to put at the back of our minds. Now, we'll do a 4-part or 5-part storytelling, a questionnaire sort of from everyone. And I want us to be very honest. You don't have to have all the questions, all the answers yourself. You can keep the answers in your mind. I don't mind, but let's be honest with it. You are literally one operational crack from collapse. Everything we know about media right now is changing. There are questions that we are yet to answer. And so you think you know where the crack is, but because you don't have the right systems, you don't know how to identify the cracks. And so I want us to go back a bit to why we start media organizations and just run through, why it's important that we start to rethink about the way that we do things. We start media organizations for plenty reasons. Show of hands. If you work in media because you want to hold power accountable, raise your hand. Oh, there's like 100 people here who don't want to hold power accountable. If you wanted to start media because you finally wanted to do work that had African nuance, raise your hand. Interesting. If you started because you wanted an independent platform that could, creatively hold its own, raise your hand. And then there's people in the middle that did not start for any reason at all. All right. But we all start media organizations for different reasons. And all of these reasons are very noble reasons. We want to change the world. We want to change the way people think. We want to change the way people see Africa. At Big About Media, where I'm COO, we say that we want to change the way people see Africa and the way Africans see themselves for good. But all of that, costs money. And we don't like to talk about that. But whatever your reasons are for starting a media company, I do want us all for working in one or working in media, whether you are independent or whether you work within a system. I want us to honestly reflect on these questions. Does your idea actually need to become a new media organization? Though you don't have to tell me, but does it? Can you collaborate with me so we can do something that's stronger together? We usually don't ask ourselves that question. The second question is, when you finally have a team you're working with, can they explain why you exist without you being there, or how you keep your sustainability without you being there in 2 sentences? Again, don't tell me. Think about it. Do you have a documented flow for how things move from pitching to publishing? A lot of the issues we talk about, how to cover Africa, how newsrooms stay alive. And then you have newsrooms where people do not even understand why they are there. They just know they've been covering that bit for 10 years, but they have no reason why that's happening. Can you map your bottleneck? So this is becoming too technical, and this is the part we don't like. And I'll skip through it super fast. Do you have systems for onboarding? Again, very technical. Are you certain about the things that can run in your absence? Very, very technical. Nobody can do it like you do. So we know that we're all a room of geniuses here. All right. Now, this is the sad part. You did not tell me your answers, but I saw your faces, and I know that you answered no to at least 2 of these. So which means that you're in the right place, and this session is for you. And here's the thing. You can't build a better media ecosystem without building better organizations. One organization does not make an ecosystem. And we're very fond of this as media people. We pick a beacon organization. We try and aspire to do stuff the way they do stuff. And we don't break down, all the moving parts of why they're able to do stuff that way. I'm going to see how we can attempt to do that. I have said this before, that a media organization is still an organization, which means that as we can see from all the layoffs, all the pivots, it means that it is prone to the same type of organizational failures. And more so, it has its own unique failures because we have stakeholders that other industries do not necessarily have to compete with. So how are these things affecting our work? So we get frightened. Again, I've been told we get frightened when we hear money, when we hear systems, if they feel like distraction. It's almost like I'm trying to taint the good name of all the wonderful work that we're doing. But essentially, today, we are talking about systems because it's important. Now, my big idea here, and I want you to bear with me, how many people here have worked in a newsroom? Fantastic. And it means that you're no stranger to operations. Because the big idea is that media used to be really good at operations. The entire process of how a newsroom functions is operations. The way that you literally go, you pitch your story, you go work on the story, is operations. We had beat structures where reporters almost were like the know-all of their beats. Like you covered the beats so well that you knew it better than most professionals. That's operations. You have fact-checking protocols in your newsroom. It's operational. You have editorial calendars and readings. It's operational. So I hope we can start to see that it's not something we went to borrow from tech and we're importing here. So the question then becomes, what happened to all of that excellence that we codified over the years? I'll tell you what happened. We got carried away, and it tends to happen to media a lot. New technology comes, new way of working comes, we get very carried away, and the core of who we are and how we operate, we start to second-guess those things. But if you look deeper into your newsroom, if you've been a journalist that's worked in a newsroom, you realize that the core of what happens there is operational. Your managing editor is called a managing editor for a reason. It's the editor that manages. It's literally your COO of the newsroom. So how are we taking all of those things we've codified to run our organizations in this day and age? Now, because we had a crack in editorial operations, we've now had the crack that spread across every part of the organization, where in the newsroom, you're required to know your story, but we don't know our organizations. You're required to know your stakeholders, know your sources, understand your bits, but we don't know our organizational stakeholders. So if we're not codifying all of these things, if we cannot structure our organizations the way we have originally from the beginning structured our editorial, where do we go from there? So you can see that this is not new gospel. We're not asking you to become business people, because media people balk at the idea of becoming business people. We're simply asking that we all return to our roots and we begin to codify the things that made media work in the first place. Now, there's a 3-pronged fix to this. The first one is, of course, you need to treat operations like editorial, because it is one and the same. There is excellence that has been codified, and we need to essentially scale that. The second one is that we need to build for the African context, which is what we say all the time, but I'll go into detail of how this works. And then the last one is that we need to create a connective tissue. Now, when we talk about treating editorial, like operations, it's really just down to planning. If you plan coverage, you should be able to plan everything else. Like your coverage is not existing in a vacuum. You should be able to plan everything else. The second thing is you need someone whose job is the systems. So when you have the managing editor at the newsroom level, you should have a version of that at the organizational level. Whatever name you want to call it so people don't mistake you for a regular company, please give it that name, but just have that person. And of course, just think about the full architecture of things. For building for African context, I'm not going to dwell here because I think that we all understand it. But the primary thing is that it is important that we stop copy-pasting whatever we think works in a Western context. We have very unique issues. So let's build organizations that work for these issues. And then for creating a connective tissue, I think every part of your organization has to function together, and they can't be strangers to each other. I do want to stop by saying that we can't speak about media freedom with all the vim and all the passion that we speak about it, and not want to do the groundwork, the foundational work, to make sure that we're building better media organizations. So thank you.